My name is Dick Levine, and I am a longtime board member of Progress Texas. It's perfectly obvious that way too many people are living in an isolated media environment that is just divorced from reality. And Progress Texas is trying to break through, especially among younger people, to try to tell them the truth. It's important to find meaning in the struggle. Albert Camus said that first.
It's Wednesday, May 13th, 2026, and this is the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch, rapid response on the breaking news stories Texas progressives need to know. I'm Chris Mosier. Progress Texas amplifies progressive values, leaders, and actions through our No Paywall podcasts and digital media. We make Texas politics easy to understand and to participate in, and your support for fact-based independent media hands the mic to millions of Texans. Thanks to Allison Grincher Allen, Diane Roberts, and Ed Limbaugh for their ongoing sustaining support. Longstanding national Democratic rock stars are suddenly orbiting Texas politics in dramatic fashion, starting with a little deja vu as President Barack Obama, by pure happenstance of course, found himself in an Austin taco joint yesterday, quite literally. The place is called the Taco Joint on San Jacinto, east of UT Austin, and the hang was rounded out by Democratic state reps and nominees for governor and U.S. Senate, respectively, Gina Hinojosa and James Tallarico. The three hung out with patrons for about 30 minutes, the general theme being excitement around encouraging voter turnout for both the Democratic runoff next week and the upcoming general election in November. Members of Tallarico's family were there, including his very nice parents and his young niece. Longtime Austinites will flash back a decade, wow, to President Obama's pop-in at the first Torchy's Tacos brick-and-mortar location on South 1st Street in Austin in 2016. The man has a thing for Texas tacos, and in fact, he walked out of the taco joint yesterday with a bag of fried fish, mole, and shrimp street tacos to go. As we've been talking about, James Tallarico maintains a narrow lead in recent polling against both of his potential Republican opponents, and recent numbers from Texas Public Opinion Research has Gina Hinojosa within striking distance of Governor Greg Abbott, just a 5-point spread, 48% to 43%, with Gina dominating among independents, moderates, black voters, Latino voters, and young voters. Sticking with rock stars here, a solid one landed for this summer's Texas Democratic Party convention in Corpus Christi. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders is always a hoot, and he's joined the lineup of speakers at this year's TDP convention, says Jeremy Landers at KIII-TV in Corpus. Organizers and city officials expect a significant economic and political boost for the city and the entire Coastal Bend region from June 25th through the 27th. These things are a blast for progressive wonky types like us as critical organizational stuff goes down. Delegates and activists, sometimes nicely and sometimes not, will hash out the official party platform and policy priorities as the push towards November gets a lot more intense. Expected draw is about 5,000 attendees. Again, Visit Corpus Christi estimates the Texas Democratic Party convention will generate more than $4 million for the regional economy, impacting Corpus's hospitality sector, restaurants, and downtown nightlife districts. See the link in the show notes to learn more and to get yourself signed up to attend. We hope to see you there. Shifting to the opposition here, there's considerable trouble in paradise for Texas Republicans, it would appear, starting with a recent and comprehensive analysis by the conservative-friendly Ragnar Research based on data from over 4,200 interviews, which brings to light a significant and growing trend of disengagement among historically reliable Republican primary voters in the Lone Star State. Ragnar detects a trend that they call a troubling pattern in which thousands of high-propensity GOP voters, those who have participated in at least 3 of the last 4 primary cycles, are beginning to screen out of the process. This shift is especially dramatic in suburban districts where Ragnar finds nearly 27% of those who opted out of the Republican primary aren't just giving up and staying home, they've been voting instead in the Democratic primary in droves. When asked why they're jumping ship, 28% of former GOP voters cite fundamental philosophical and policy disagreement with the current direction of the Republican Party, while others point to frustrations with the questionable quality of the Republican candidate field. The time is now for strong alternatives for these unmoored voters, and is also a moment when a GOP determined to maintain power is likely to resort to any means necessary to keep it, now that their voter base is beginning to fray. And finally this morning, y'all, and this is sure doing Texas Republicans no favors with their faithful, we refer you to some solid work being done by Robert Downen at Texas Monthly as the connection between large-scale politically active religious organizations and a pattern of sexual abuse against children and young people becomes more and more clear. And this extensive report down and details a decades-long pattern of institutional failure within the Southern Baptist Convention regarding the handling of sexual abuse, centered around the foundational cultural influence and the personal behavior of Paul Pressler, the late retired Texas judge and architect of the Southern Baptist conservative resurgence movement, who died in the summer of 2024, just as the scandal had become apparent. Downing goes into very deep detail on how, despite repeated warnings from survivors and experts as early as the 1980s, the Southern Baptist Convention's leadership consistently prioritized the protection of its own public reputation and the preservation of the conservative resurgence it was attempting to engineer over the safety of its most vulnerable members. High-ranking officials utilized the SBC's decentralized structure to deflect accountability, often and routinely dismissing victims while allowing credibly accused individuals to move between congregations undetected. A significant amount of pushback in 2021 ended up with calls for a third-party investigation, but even that momentum has stalled in the face of significant internal resistance. The SBC is accustomed to getting what it wants, and by framing reform efforts as a conspiratorial leftist infiltration attempt, their leadership has thus far been able to successfully sidestep the implementation of any meaningful safeguards against the continuation of this cycle of sexual abuse. It is a crazy story and a must-see from Robert Downing and Texas Monthly. See the link in the show notes. The statewide primary elections are scheduled for May 26th, with early voting starting on May 18th, next Monday. See our carefully crafted GoVoteTexas.org for everything you need to know about voting in Texas. And there's a nice online tool from the Texas Tribune that shows you exactly who will be on your runoff ballot based on your address and party. Both of those are linked in our show notes. We have not one but two live events on the calendar right now in both Dallas and the Houston area. First, Progress Texas will be hosting a live podcast in Cypress 1 week from tonight. Come join us in Northwest Harris County as we do a first 6 months check-in with the Cy-Fair ISD school board members who made national news last year when they beat back the Christian Nationalists. Be sure to sign up on the Progress Texas event page and join us Wednesday evening, May 20th, next Wednesday, at Creekwood Grill in Cypress. The event's free thanks to our sponsors, Sean Finney, the Honorable Leslie Briones, and Otis Evagaro. And we're getting ready for our 16th anniversary celebration the following week in Dallas with drinks, light bites, and a fun review of the highlights of our successes over the last few years. Save that date. It's Tuesday, June 16th. And see the link in the show notes to reserve your spot. Our good friends Howard Cleon, Charles Zeller, Alex Andrade, the Honorable Dick Levine, who we heard back at the top, the Honorable Bill Peterson, and Mark Yagin are among the supporters of our 16th anniversary shindig. We appreciate all of you very, very much. Our live events are a major way that we keep doing what we do, and by sponsoring and attending, you're helping Progress Texas continue our important work during this crucial election year. Learn how to support and join us live at ProgressTexas.org. Houston listeners, the next episode of our In Progress Roundtable show will come to you on the radio in the middle of a new Thursday afternoon block of progressive political programming tomorrow. In Progress starts at 6:30 p.m. every Thursday on KPFT 90.1 FM after the Progressive Forum and before the midterm show with Ernest Wittring. And it runs a second time every Sunday morning at 11 on KPFT FM HD2. With your support, we hope to expand our radio footprint beyond Houston this year. See the link in the show notes to make your tax-deductible donation to help us reach new audiences via Texas Radio. That's the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch for this Wednesday, May 13th, 2026. Links to all these original stories can be found in our show notes. When lies in Texas are well funded by the far right, your support for fact-based reporting is needed and appreciated. I'm Chris Mosier. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great day, and we'll see you again tomorrow morning.